Abraham Lincoln's wife was a very controversial figure in her own time, but when I go around the country speaking about her, I find the first question I always get is, was she crazy? So certainly in popular culture and I think in historical fiction, she's emerged as someone who might have been manic depressive, a shopaholic, someone who was definitely unstable, if not mentally incompetent. Yet when we look at her record, we find that she was witty, intellectual, she conversed with diplomats in French at state dinners. She was someone who was holding the White House together during a most difficult time when soldiers were bivouacked in the first floor of the executive mansion. She was someone who was really quite accomplished. Certainly in this bicentennial era, when we're looking at Lincoln's birthday 200 years ago and great celebrations of his presidency, we want to look at every aspect of his life. Recently, there's been a lot of controversy around his personal life, so some of the questions pop up. Was Lincoln gay? His relationships with women, even with his wife Mary, are questioned. And I think it's important that we re-examine the close partnership between Mary and Abraham that went on long before he came to the White House. As a historian of 19th century America, and especially looking at women's lives during that era, I knew that birth and death were very central to women's lives. And I was greatly shocked to discover that Mary Lincoln didn't get to spend the last hours of her husband's life with him, and this was something I think that was emblematic of the way she was treated by the men around him at the time, and perhaps by scholars ever after, as someone shunted off to the side. I also, looking at her tragic life, was quite surprised to discover that although she was really unhinged by her husband's death, and she tried to recuperate and recover the death of Tad a few years later, and then having a single son, Robert Todd Lincoln, to depend on, was something that made her very fragile. Yet when Robert decided to take away her legal rights, she was put on trial in Chicago. She was found legally incompetent and locked in a sanitarium. That was such a complete blow to her pride, her self-esteem, and it was something that I discovered turned her hair white.